this is Mike Fry, and you are listening to the We Effing Told You So podcast. Today is August 10, 2025, and today's installment is Yet More Evidence Trump Stole the 2024 Election. A little-known lawsuit in New York is exposing data the whole world should be talking about, but few in the press are covering it. So here is the 2024 election story everyone should be talking about, but that very few people even know about. For those listening to the podcast rather than reading the blog, this is a link to a story in the right-leaning publication Newsweek. It's about a lawsuit that's moving forward based on a host of data points in the election in 2024 that are more than improbable. More explicitly, they seem impossible. For example, the lawsuit, which was brought by Smart Elections, a nonpartisan election security organization, highlights multiple districts where the election results include large numbers of Democratic votes for down-ballot candidates, but 0 votes for Harris. Let that sink in. 0 votes for Harris. The lawsuit also shows that a series of software updates were pushed through election voting systems for which no testing had been done and still hasn't been. The lawsuit is the result of complaints from voters and a series of problematic data points in the election results. For the lawsuit to move forward, Smart Elections needed to show in court that there was sufficient evidence to move on to the formal discovery phase of the lawsuit. The hearing on that topic occurred in May, and Judge Rachel Tanguay of the New York Supreme Court ruled in open court that the allegations were serious enough and the evidence compelling enough for discovery to proceed. This, of course, is on the heels of reporting that we have previously covered from the award-winning investigative journalist Greg Palast. Palast provides the receipts documenting the sleazy and even illegal methods Republicans used to erase votes for Harris in the 2024 election. Palast writes, quote, "If all the legal ballots were counted, Trump would have lost the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Vice President Kamala Harris would have won the presidency with 286 electoral votes." End quote. To be clear, this reporting is nothing like the election conspiracies pushed by MAGA in 2020. Then they screamed the election was rigged with 0 evidence. Here, there's a large and growing pile of evidence, and not nearly enough people are screaming about it. And those talking about it are really doing a terrible job doing so. It is almost as if some people are so afraid of being labeled as being like the nutjob MAGA election conspiracy theorists that they ignore the evidence right in front of their faces, which is almost as bad. Case in point, Snopes, the fact-checking group many people look to, sadly, to analyze such claims, has really blown it on this front. Just one of the many examples of Snopes' abysmal fact-checking on this topic. They have reportedly said that voting machines could not possibly have been hacked because they're not connected to the internet. That's wrong on multiple fronts. First, any machine can be hacked without being connected to the internet. Anyone with a minimal understanding of beginners' hacking techniques knows that hacking can be done via disk, flash drive, as well as internet connections. Second, it is not true that voting machines are never connected to the internet. Many are at times, just not during the election. Clearly, a hack can happen at any time before or after the actual voting. Any fact checker that gets basic facts like that so wrong is simply, in our opinion, not at all reliable. Furthermore, the tampering and data issues described in these reports don't even require the machines to have been hacked. It also ignores all of the malicious tactics Republicans have used out in the open to disenfranchise voters of color, like, for example, recruiting Republican operatives to challenge the right to vote of tens of thousands of voters simply because they have Black or Hispanic-sounding names on the voter rolls. Or what about the mailing of poison postcards to people of color? These postcards were developed by Republicans in Republican-controlled states and are designed to look like junk mail. If you get one and do not respond promptly, you are removed from the voter rolls. However, unless you stop and read them very carefully, you would never know that. The response rate to them is less than 5% by design. The fact that Republicans openly took these kinds of steps to delete millions of Democratic votes should lead all of us to ask some basic questions, like, for example, why would anyone be skeptical that they also did other things to steal the election? Also, why would so many in the press be so quiet about all of this easily verifiable cheating? To answer that second question, one only needs to look at the many ways the mainstream media has capitulated to Trump. Add the universities to the list of cowardly appeasers to MAGA, and it becomes easy to see that many powerful people are wanting to hide the reality that's right in front of all of our faces. Trump stole the last election. It's also worth pointing out that Republicans are actively working to help him rig the next election even more. And again, they're doing it right in front of our faces. See what's happening in Texas as an example. The silence of the press and the lack of chat we see on social media about all of this makes us wonder how many billionaire owners of media and social media firms are implicated in the Epstein files. That might seem like a leap, but there is a reason we ask, because the overt cheating Republicans are doing isn't the only big story largely being ignored by the press. Here is another even bigger one. The more than $1.1 billion in wire transfers to Epstein that were flagged as suspicious by banks from all over the world. Again, fact-checking organizations like Snopes have done a terrible job covering the topic by focusing on some of the craziest social media posts claiming the wire transfers were initiated by Trump. They are claiming the story to be false because there's no evidence that they came from Trump. Instead, they should be focusing on the fact that the wire transfers are real and that no one in either the Trump or Biden administration seems to have bothered to investigate who was on the other end of those transactions. In total, there were 4,725 wire transfers documented, many of them run through Russian banks, totaling more than $1.1 billion sent to Epstein, according to the banks. By default, the people sending all that money to Epstein have to be the mega wealthy from all over the world. While some in the Trump administration today love to say there's no Epstein list of clients, it seems clear that such a list would be relatively easy to put together by simply creating a list of the people who initiated all those bank transfers. Our bet is that owners of mega-sized media outlets are likely on the list, which would explain their suspicious, subservient treatment of Trump. More on that in our next edition. Until then, we'll just say that if we ever learn the identities of all those people sending all of that money to Epstein, we'll probably get a chance to say, "We fucking told you so." You have been listening to the We Effing Told You So podcast. Please like and subscribe and share on your social media. You can also find us on Blue Sky, Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many other podcast apps.